Howdy folks, welcome to Module 1 of the Microsoft SC-300 course, which is also called the Microsoft Identity and Access Administrator course. The first module of this course, as you can probably see on the screen, is called Implement an Identity Management Solution. Now folks, if you're new to the channel, first of all, welcome. Please note that this video will be the full Module 1 of the course, so it's going to be a bit long. If you're only looking for a specific topic in this module, or if you just like to revise on something perhaps, you'll find a pretty decent list of most of the topics in this video in the description down below. Next to these topics, you'll also find convenient timestamps, which will take you straight to those topics in the video. I spent a lot of time getting those timestamps in there for you guys, so please feel free to use them. Now, as for the actual agenda of this module consists of 11 main sections, folks. Yes, I just said 11. For those of you that have maybe watched my other courses and that are used to a module maybe only having 5 or 6 main sections at max, please keep in mind that in those courses there was way more modules. So in this course, Microsoft has divided the course into only 4 modules. So we have to cover the whole Microsoft SC-300 course in only 4 modules. So it makes sense that they would probably go and add more sections. I'm not sure why they decided to go and do it that way. If it was up to me, I would instead make it less sections and more modules, but Microsoft decided to make it less modules and just add more sections into a module. So I've got the feeling this is going to be a very long video. Alright, so since it's going to be done in 4 modules, yeah, it's going to be way more. Anyway, the first main section we'll be diving into, guys, is configure and manage Azure Active Directory roles. Although I see Microsoft has now gone and changed the name of Azure Active Directory to Entra ID, so I suppose this will probably now be called Entra AD Roles. The second main section is configure and manage custom domains. The third is configure and manage device registration. The fourth is configure delegation by using administrative units. The fifth is configure tenant-wide settings. The sixth is create, configure and manage groups. The seventh section is manage licenses. Eighth is manage external collaboration. The ninth is invite external users. The 10th is manage external user accounts in Azure Active Directory. And then, folks, finally, the 11th and the last main section will be Azure AD Connect, which I believe is now called Microsoft Entra Connect. I would have guessed this would be called Microsoft Entra ID Connect, but I think it's called Microsoft Entra Connect. Well, there you have it, folks. That is the 11 main sections we'll be covering in this specific module. Once again, that is not everything in this module. Those are simply just the main sections. The list of topics in the video description down below, that should give you a more accurate idea of more or less what's going to be in this module. Alright folks, before we jump into that first main section, do your homie here a favor and boink that like button. It takes a tremendous amount of time and work to make these videos for you guys, so you can think of this as payment for the video, I suppose. I mean, I'm giving this away for free after all. Alright guys, if you would like to know when module 2 of this course comes out, maybe also consider subscribing, unless you're a subscriber already. That way YouTube will, basically push out the video to you if I release a new one, or basically just inform you, so you're not going to miss it. Now that we have all the intro stuff out of the way, let's go learn something. Alright folks, here we are at the first main section, configure and manage Azure Active Directory roles. The first topic we'll be covering in this section, you've guessed it, it is Azure Active Directory. Now, I did say it before, and I'm going to say it again. Microsoft now calls Azure Active Directory Entra ID. Don't ask me why. You're going to have to go and ask Microsoft why they do some of these changes. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. So, for all intents and purposes, I'm still going to call it Azure Active Directory because it just makes more sense in my opinion. But just be aware, should you go to the Azure portal, and if you're going to go and look for it, you're going to see it is no longer called Azure Active Directory. It is now listed as Entra ID. So going forward in this module in this course, every time you hear me say Azure Active Directory, just know I'm talking about Entra ID. Alright, so with regards to Azure Active Directory, it is Microsoft's cloud-based identity and access management service. I mean, it's all about identities in the end of the day. So if you go look at your traditional Active Directory on premises, it was used, or it still is used, to manage your identities and your devices. And if you use it correctly, you can go and apply things like group policies and all that. So that still applies. We've just kind of moved it now to the cloud because everything these days is becoming remote, virtual, and is moving into the cloud. Now, Azure's Active Directory provides access to both external and internal resources. I mean, obviously, people are still going to go and use some resources on premises. They're not going to completely move away from that. But we do want to move away from the on-premises Active Directory, at least eventually. So if we plan on moving away from it, but we still might have some other resources on premises, we would ideally like it, or, it would obviously benefit us if the Azure Active Directory can still allow us to control access to these resources on premises. And it goes without saying that we are going to have resources online outside our company environment. And that's especially where Azure Active Directory excels because, I mean, let's face it, everything is moving online and off premises nowadays. So there needs to be a way for us to go and control access to these resources. If you look at the landscape we're facing these days, people are no longer coming into the office. I mean, as recently as 10 years ago, folks would come into the office, they would sit at their desk every day. It was most likely a desktop PC. Only salespeople and managers would normally have a laptop of some kind. Nowadays, unfortunately not. Half of people are working from home, and it's not just because of COVID, that's just the future. People are working from home. They're not necessarily using a desktop or a laptop. This could potentially be a phone or a tablet. They're not necessarily using a Windows operating system. This can be something like iOS from Apple. It can be something like Android from Google. We don't know. So the whole landscape is entirely changed now when it comes to managing these people and their devices. Wow, it sounds like I'm talking about something like Microsoft Intune. We're not. I'm just mentioning the landscape has now changed. So since people are from wherever and doing whatever, it becomes a bit of a task now for us to manage these people and what resources they can go and access. Now, regarding Intune, if you guys find that interesting, maybe go check out the Microsoft MD 102 course. I happen to have done that one on my channel too, but you don't have to go check my videos. It might just be something worth looking into because it does allow you to manage any person, any device, anywhere, provided, of course, that these devices are enrolled into your company's Intune environment. Now, regarding this Azure Active Directory, that would be the one in the cloud, it's got many similarities with Active Directory. So I'm talking about the old school on-premises Active Directory. This would normally be a role you would have to install on premises, more specifically the ADDS role, Active Directory Domain Services is what it stands for. And when you install that role on premises, you can for the most part control your users, their groups, their devices. As long as they're on premises, you can control them on premises with group policies and that kinds of stuff. So there is a lot of similarities of the one on premises. It's not exactly the same. There is a few things that the Active Directory in the cloud can do that the one on premises cannot. And there's a few things the one on premises can do that the one in the cloud cannot, which is why you'll find so many companies out there at this point in time sitting with what they call a hybrid Active Directory environment. That means they have not quite gotten rid of the one on premises yet. Instead, they're keeping the life support on it, if you want to call it that. And at the same time, they have now acquired Azure Active Directory, and their 10 to 1 have synchronized these two with one another. Normally, we use a tool called the Azure AD Connect tool, but I believe they've renamed that now too because of the Azure Active Directory being renamed. I think it's now called Entra ID Connect or something in those lines. A couple of features regarding the Azure Active Directory. These are just a couple of features, guys. It's not all of them. It gives you things like multi-factor authentication. So that In itself, it's not something new, but it is quite cool to know that the Azure Active Directory does still give you functions like multi-factor authentication. I mean, we have to have some things like that. Otherwise, security is going to be a bit of a concern, wouldn't you say? It gives you benefits like single sign-on. So if one of your users opens a browser and they, for instance, log into 365's user portal and they go and open another portal, they will not be requested to go and sign in again. Instead, the session will just automatically open your Azure Active Directory or open whatever you've got on Azure or one of your 365 portals. This gives the users more time to focus on productivity instead of wasting time on signing in on pages and all that. Obviously, it goes without saying, should the user go close the browser session, they will need to go and log back in again, obviously because of security reasons. Other features you might potentially get here, I'm not sure why I'm saying might, you are going to get these features and benefits, is things like conditional access. These are one of my personal favorites, that and DLP policies, if you know what that is. So with conditional access, you are able to go and specify policies of sorts, which these users need to meet first before they will be able to access company resources. I'm calling them policies, but it's actually more conditions. So if someone's working from home, whether it's their device or not, they need to meet certain conditions first before they will be granted access to company resources in the cloud or company resources on premises. There's a very long list of things you have to go and meet, guys, or a very long list of things you can go and specify that has to be met. This could be things like the user has to have MFA. This could be things like the user has to have a company-owned device and not a BYOD scenario. It has to be a company-owned device. Now, one of the ways we ensure this is the user's device has to be Azure domain joined. If it's not Azure domain joined, we normally assume that it's a personally owned device. This device, for instance, has to have a certain operating system. It has to be Windows, or it has to be Android, or it has to be iOS. Each and every one of these operating systems has certain benefits and certain drawbacks. It's going to depend on your company or your client's company's unique needs and requirements. That will determine which operating system you're going to go in favor. If you look at something like Windows, certain things like group policies would obviously work on those devices, but group policies does not work on Android or iOS. If you look at things like Android and iOS, app protection policies would work, but those don't work on Windows devices. That's just an example, guys. Now, other conditions you can go and specify is, for example, a geographic lock, one of my personal favorites. So these users has to geographically be in a certain location before they'll be granted access to resources. It's based on public IP address, and before you go and ask me in the comment section down below, yes, you can use a VPN connection to bypass this. So if you are sitting at home and the company's work address is specified, yes, you can VPN to the office, you can pretend to be at the office, and yes, it will give you access. It's not to stop people, it's just to discourage bad behavior. And if you go think about it, the average user does not know about these kinds of things. This is more for the IT staff. You guys would obviously know what a VPN connection is, what its benefits is, its restrictions is, and all those kinds of things. The average user, not so much. They don't exactly know what a VPN is. They just know we tell them to go and use it, but they don't exactly know why we tell them to go and use it. They just know they need to go and use it. So yes, you've got a geographic lock. The people have to be at the office, or they have to be at home. And if they're not in one of those two locations, if they, for instance, one day go and sit in a coffee shop and use the free Wi-Fi in the coffee shop, it's not going to work because it's going to see them geographically as a different location, which is suspicious, and it's going to block them because it's seen as a security risk. And the list of features, guys, just goes on and on. We just mentioned a couple that comes with the course. Those are the only ones I've seen them mention in this particular course. But if you want to know more, things that's outside the scope of this course, feel free to ask me in the comment section down below, and I'll gladly give you a couple of extra ones if you're curious. Active Directory in the cloud also gives you multiple licensing options, which is always nice to know. I always think that's a good thing. Now, since we are talking about an Active Directory, I mean, it's in the cloud, but it's still an Active Directory, that brings me to Azure Active Directory Roles, or once again, should I say, Entra ID Roles. Yeah, I just can't say that with a straight face. I really don't like the new name. It makes no sense to me. Saying Azure Active Directory just makes more sense because it's an Active Directory, it's online, it's on a platform called Azure, so the name Azure Active Directory just logically makes more sense to me. I don't know why they decided to go and call it Entra ID. I personally think Microsoft's team is just bored and they need to go and change some stuff. I don't know. So, in regards to Azure Active Directory roles, just like on premises, guys, in the cloud, you can also go and specify privilege. So, you might have to go and assign a lot of privilege to some people, some other ones, maybe not so much. And just because you assign one role to an individual does not mean he or she will be able to go and complete their tasks or their goals, whatever it might be. In most cases, from what I've seen, and I'm talking from experience, we normally had to go and assign these users multiple roles. In case you're curious what it looks like, guys, there's a bit of a screenshot for you guys of, well, what it used to look like. Let me put it that way. What it used to look like. At the moment, it doesn't exactly look like that. So that screenshot, in case you guys are wondering, that was taken on the Azure portal, more specifically on the Azure Active Directory, or should I say Entra ID. And not too long ago, as recently as 2018, 2019, if you wanted to assign a role to a user, that's basically the privileges or permissions, there was 3 radio buttons you can go and choose from. One said user, which was the default. The person would have no privilege. The second one said global administrator, which is the highest privilege you can give someone on Azure or 365. The third option said limited administrator. If you were to have clicked on that button, it would drop down of a list of about 5 or 6 limited admin accounts. Obviously, they've got more privilege than the average user, but they are still limited. Now, however, that is definitely not the case. If you were to go to the Azure Active Directory now and go look at the roles that's available for a user, just FYI, you can also see this on 365's Admin Center. If you were to go and look at that, you would see the list is exceptionally long. Even I don't know what half of those roles do. You're going to have to go and look them up. So, and the list is continuously growing, guys. So I think to put this into better perspective, let me go to the Azure portal and show you guys these roles that you've got available. These are called RBAC, Role-Based Access Controls. If you hear anyone say that, or if it's mentioned in the exam, because a lot of you guys are probably watching this because you need to go and write the exam. In the exam, they're not going to say access or permissions. They're probably going to refer to this as RBAC that you need to go and give the user. That means roles, privilege, role-based access control. Anyway, enough of that. Let's switch over to the Azure portal.
A few moments later.
All right, folks, here we are on the Azure portal. Now, how do we actually get to the Azure Active Directory, or Microsoft Entra ID as they call it now? One way to do that would obviously be to go click there. I mean, it literally says Azure or Microsoft Entra ID there. But whenever you find yourself in that sticky situation where you just don't know where something is because you've never worked with it, or because Microsoft decided to be funny to go and rename something or move something, because they've been doing that a lot lately. They keep renaming stuff, they keep moving stuff. So even if you have worked with a certain component, you might no longer know where it is because they decided to move it. That has happened to me countless times. So I'll be in the middle of a course, delivering a course that I've given countless times, and right in the middle of the course, I'll realize I don't know where something is because Microsoft decided to move it. So whenever that happens to you guys, feel free to use this search engine at the top. I like to call this the life jacket. It's not its name, it's just a search engine, but I call it the life jacket because it has rescued me countless times. Whenever Microsoft moves something, renames something, or you just don't know where something is, feel free to type it in at the top. So in this case, I'm going to go type in Entra ID. You'll see it allows you to go and click on a component. It will take you to that component, whatever it might be and wherever it might be, and you would never have actually have known where it might have been. So that's pretty handy to use if you don't know where something is. All right, so besides using that and besides clicking there, you can also alternatively go to the top left here. This would open the navigation pane in the Azure portal. It shows you a brief overview of some of the most common functions and features one might need on the Azure portal. You can actually go and pin these things, you can go and drag them. This is in no sense the only functions and features you will find on the Azure portal. Absolutely not. If you would like to have more functions and features, which is, well, guys, the list is probably thousands and thousands of components long. If you'd like to access some of the other functions and features, you'd have to go click here where it says all services. Alternatively, top left where it says create a resource, Microsoft has renamed these things a few times over the years. That used to be called more services, not all services. And it used to be at the bottom of this navigation menu. This one here, it says create a resource. That used to be new It was always there, but it used to say new. So if you're following some sort of labs or some sort of instruction guide and it tells you go click on more services or go click on new, yeah, good luck, because Microsoft likes to go and rename stuff and move stuff. I mean, Azure Active Directory is a very good example of that. Look at that. They just went and renamed that. So in this list, guys, if you scroll down, there it is, Microsoft Entra ID, used to say Azure Active Directory. Click on that bad boy. Now it opens a blade. This is not a navigation menu. This is a blade. That is a navigation menu. That is a blade. Depending on which tab you click on, it might open another blade next to this. And depending on what tab you click there, it might open another blade, and another blade, and another blade. It's very much the same as folders on your laptop, desktop, or server. Depending on the folder, you might see more folders. And inside those folders, you might see more folders. And before you know, you're 10 or 20 folders deep. It's the same concept. Now, generally, you'll only be one blade, maybe 2 or 3 blades deep. But it has happened to me where I'll go 10 or 20 blades deep, depending on the component. Now, getting back to the actual topic here, which is not just the Azure Active Directory or Entra ID. Speaking of which, you'll see here it says Azure Active Directory is now Microsoft Entra ID. Yeah, luckily I said that to you guys in the beginning, otherwise it would be awkward, wouldn't it? So we're specifically talking about RBAC, Role-Based Access Control. So this is something you'd go and configure for an existing user or for a new one. You go here to where it says Users. So I'm going to click on that tab. It's going to open the user section. I only have one. So there's my fake tenant I made specifically for this video course. Fake name, fake last name. That's not my name or last name. It's completely fake because I'm not in it for the fame of this. Otherwise, people are never going to leave me alone. The course is just to help people in need that needs to know more stuff. Maybe you're deploying this technology. Maybe you intend on writing the exam. Either way, I hope this course helps you guys out. Remember to give the video a like if you haven't done so. So you can either go to a new user. That will be an internal user inside your company on your Active Directory, or an external user. This used to be called guest user, and it actually used to be a different tab here. So that's if you've got a consultant or a contract worker, and you do not want to create that person a full-fledged Active Directory account, because let's face it, we're going to be very uncomfortable about that. So I'm going to go here to new user for now. I'm going to click on that bad boy. This used to be one long list up until a couple of months ago. Now I see more recently Microsoft has made it one short list, and instead they've divided into actual tabs. That I can agree with. Some of the things Microsoft does I agree with because it makes sense. It makes things smoother, logically and all that. But you know, when they go and do things like calling Active Directory Entra ID, that's, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you guys. So you would go and type in a name here. I'm just going to go and say test user or whatever fake name you want to go and type in there. You would choose your domain. I only have the one fake one at the moment. Type a display name and a password. You can go type one or generate one. All of this is besides the point. This is not a basics fundamentals course. This is to teach you guys SC-300. So getting to the actual topic. If you go to assignments, that's the one I want to pay special attention to. If you go to the assignments tab, you can add this individual to a group if they're not in one yet. You can always do it later. And more importantly, you can go and add roles. In other words, privilege or permissions, however you want to go and look at it. Gonna click on that bad boy. Used to be free radio buttons, like I said in the beginning. User, global, and limited administrator. Absolutely not just free radio buttons. Let me look at this list, guys. It is insane. Now, you do still find global administrator. If you don't tick anything from this list, the person would just be the good old-fashioned user, which we spoke of in the beginning, which has no privilege. So that one, be careful. Most companies only have one or two of that account because it's got way too much privilege. So you would probably go and end up choosing one of these other limited admin roles. Depending on what the person might do for you or what they've been hired to do, you're more than likely going to have to tick multiple roles here. So I'm just going to go and thumbsuck it, guys. If this person has been tasked to manage your Microsoft Teams environment, your whole Teams environment, one might think, okay, you know what? Let me scroll down here to Microsoft Teams. I think it's going to be T for Teams. Let's see if we can find it. And tick that bad boy there. So this individual will now have full outright privilege on the Microsoft Teams Admin Center, for those of you who don't know. And you might think, okay, cool, this person can do anything they need to do with regards to my Microsoft Teams environment, the position that I've hired them for. And you would be wrong. Most settings for Teams, yes, they'll probably be on the Teams Admin Center. but not all. Some of them will be on the main 365 Admin Center. Some of them will be on the SharePoint Admin Center. And some of them will be on the Azure portal. So you're probably going to end up having to go and give this individual more roles. Some limited SharePoint privilege, some limited normal 365 privilege, some Azure privilege. It's going to have a lot of growing pains, guys. Now, I'm just using Teams Administrator as an example. It's obviously not limited to the Teams environment. This applies to anything. So if this person needs to manage your SharePoint or your Jammer or whatever, it's gonna apply, guys. So yeah, in a nutshell, these are the RBAC roles they spoke of. All right, so let's go back to my presentation. All right, back we are, folks. Now, believe it or not, we actually just finished the first section in this module. So now we can dive into the second main section. It's going to be a nice, short, and sweet section. So this second section is called Configure and Manage Custom Domains. There's only one topic we're going to be talking about in this section. That is adding a custom domain. That should come as no surprise to you guys. For the most part, I'm going to show you guys this practically again, or at least as far as I possibly can, without, belaboring this course. So every tenant has a default domain ending in .onmicrosoft.com. You would have seen this just a couple of moments ago in section 1. So when I was in section 1, and when I went to the Entra ID, or the old Azure Active Directory, you would have seen mine said BurningIceTech SC-300 on Microsoft.com. So I went and made a brand spanking new live ID just for the purposes of this video. And the email address, I believe, was BurningIceTech SC300. So, and then it obviously just goes and automatically adds the on Microsoft.com. Before any of you guys think of spamming me on that email address, don't even bother. It's an email address that I'm never going to check. I specifically made it for this video, and I plan on never actually checking that inbox. So don't even bother contacting me on that. If you guys want to get a hold of me, feel free to drop your comments down below. Or alternatively, check in the video description. Way at the bottom of the video description, you'll find a Discord server. And I am in that Discord server. I'm listed as BurningIceTech. So just go and, chat with me there. You can find me there. There's lots of other people in that server as well. All of them are studying IT courses like this one. So feel free to go and check that server out, guys. Anyway, so you can add your own custom domain name and make it the primary. So instead of this thing ending of .on Microsoft.com, I mean, let's face it, that's very unuser friendly. It's unprofessional. It looks like a fly-by-night, and any company is going to end with that in the beginning. This applies to Azure. It applies to 365. You will end with that in the beginning, the .on Microsoft.com. Now you can go and add your own custom domain. You just need to go and prove, obviously, that you own this domain. So if your custom domain is BurningIceTech.com, you can go and add that. You can go and add that, and you can go and remove the .on Microsoft.com. So it's going to basically be an alias, the Microsoft or the BurningIceTech.com one. And at least now it's not going to look like a fly-by-night. The email address is going to be a lot shorter, a lot smoother, a lot more professional. It's not going to look like some fly-by-night. So yeah, you can go and add it, subject to you proving that you do indeed own it. You can add up to 900 custom domains. Man, I don't know any company that's added that many. Normally, most companies only go and add one, and at most maybe 2 or 3 subdomains. So yeah, you must add a root domain before adding subdomains. This makes logically sense. So if I've got BurningIceTech.com, that will be my main root domain, and then I can go and add subdomains underneath that afterwards. You have to go and make the main cheese first here before you can get to the subdomains. Now, theory-wise, this is probably all I had to say to you guys in this specific section, but where's the fun in that? So let's just quickly switch over to the Azure portal, because, I mean, yes, there is a screenshot on the screen, but it does not necessarily look exactly like that anymore. Something I want to bring your attention to, if you look at that screenshot very closely, I know it's a small screenshot, guys. If you look at the blade, where it's highlighted in red, you'll see at the bottom left in the picture, it says custom domain names. That is still there. It's still on the Azure Active Directory. And if you look at the top left of the screenshot, you'll see it still says Azure Active Directory in the screenshot. So when Microsoft made this course, it was called Azure Active Directory. And now it's no longer called Azure Active Directory. It's obviously called Entra ID. And if you look at the bottom left again, where it says custom domains, just above that, it says Azure AD Connect. That's the tool one would normally go and use to synchronize your cloud domain with your on-premises domain, should you be so lucky to have one. Now that tool has actually been renamed. I think it says Entra ID Connect now, something along those lines. We'll go and check it out now. So let's go and check what these things are called now. So I'm going to switch back over to the Azure portal.
A few moments later.
All right, back we are on the Azure portal. So this time I'm going to take a bit of a shortcut and click on Entra ID here instead. Let's click on it there. And if we scroll down far enough, before we even scroll down, you can see at the top left here, it says Microsoft Entra ID. Unlike the screenshot we saw just a moment ago where it said Microsoft Azure Active Directory, or I think it just said Azure Active Directory. It didn't even say Microsoft, just said Azure Active Directory. If we scroll down far enough here, somewhere we should see custom domains. Oh, there we go. Custom domains. So it's still in this blade. It's still called custom domains. And just above it, it's called Microsoft Entra Connect. Oh, okay. I thought it would be Entra ID Connect. So I got the name wrong there. I was doing a bit of a guess there. It's not called Entra ID Connect like I thought. It's called Microsoft Entra Connect. Yeah, go figure. Anyway, so let's click on custom domains. Let's check it out. Yep, from here everything still looks the same. You can see mine is Microsoft, well, not Microsoft, BurningIceTech SC-300 Outlook on Microsoft.com. So they went ahead and added this on Microsoft.com, which looks very unprofessional and user friendly. And if you want, you can go and obviously go and add your own custom domain. If I go and click on it just to show you what it's going to ask you, you can go and add your own custom domain there, and it's going to ask you, of course, to prove that you own that domain. Otherwise, any willy-nilly and their uncle can go and hijack your domain. And yeah, let's face it, that's not going to be so nice. Alright, so that is the end of the second main section of this module. Told you guys it's going to be a quick and easy one. Let's go back to the presentation. Alright folks, the third main section of this module is called Configure and Manage Device Registration. So if you had to guess what this section is about, you'd probably guess it's about devices and registration. Well, you wouldn't be too far off. That is kind of what it's about. So the first topic here is Azure Active Directory registered devices, or should I say Entra ID registered devices. Alright, so this thing supports BYOD. Now, if you don't know what that is, it is bring your own device. So you'll find in most organizations, the organization would provide the employees with a device. This would be something like a laptop, tablet, or phone. More than likely, it's going to be something like a laptop. And nowadays, it's not that uncommon to find people buying their own assets and using it for the purposes of work. So it does support bring your own device. If your employees wants to go and buy their own assets, their own laptop or whatever, and use it for work and maybe some personal things, they can do that. Now, in case you guys don't know, registered devices will sign in using a Microsoft account. So, yeah, there is that. Also attached to an Azure Active Directory account, granting access to organizational resources. So when people go and register these devices, you can go and attach it to an Azure Active Directory account, and this in turn will allow you to go and control what they can access and what they can't access, because we need to be able to control what resources these folks can access, especially if they're not going to be in the building, and especially if they're going to be using their own devices. I most definitely want to be able to control what they can and cannot go and access. You can control these devices using mobile device management. This will be MDM for short. Tools like Microsoft Intune. If you guys are not familiar with MDMs, it is not something specific per se. An MDM is a mobile device management platform, and the biggest well-known one just so happens to be Microsoft Intune. I'm not just saying it because it's part of this course. I'm not just saying it because it's a Microsoft tool that I'm trying to promote it. It just so happens to be the main one that most companies go and use, purely coincidentally. I happen to know that there are other ones out there. Don't ask me what they are because I've never used them. I'm man enough to admit it when I don't know something, and I don't know. I know there are other ones out there. What the names are and how they work, no idea. So it's just people don't really use them. Maybe you guys know them. Maybe you've used them. I don't. I only know Microsoft Intune, and it happens to be the most common and the most well-known one. Now, if you don't know what Intune is or what an MDM is, Intune, for instance, was designed to help you manage phones and tablets. It's not the only thing we use it for. We use Intune to manage phones, tablets, laptops, desktops, irrespective of where they are, or what they are. So I can manage any device anywhere, anytime. Now, on its own, if I just say it like that, it kind of sort of sounds like hacking. So to prevent this from being hacking, there's a catch. Of course, there has to be a catch. These devices have to be enrolled into a company's Intune environment. You can think of this as giving you permission to manage these devices. How you get them enrolled, that's up to you. You can do it when you've got these devices in your hands. So you'd find normally when someone has their own device, they're probably going to bring it into the office at least once, so you can go and provision the device with what they need. This could be an operating system because maybe the default one that came from the shop sucks. Maybe they want enterprise or professional edition of Windows. Maybe you need to install drivers and updates. Maybe you need to go and configure a VPN connection or install a couple of softwares. Whatever the case might be, normally when you have it in your possession, that's when you can take the opportunity to enroll the device in question into your Intune environment. Alternatively, if you happen to have something like SCCM, more specifically Configuration Manager, and you already have the agent for Configuration Manager on that device, you can use that to get it onto Intune. And you can also actually coincidentally use it vice versa. So if the device is on Intune, you can use Intune to get it onto SCCM as well. Alternatively, you can maybe use Autopilot, and there's many other ways you can go and get the job done as well. But we're not here to talk about Intune specifically. That's more moving into the MD102 territory, which focuses on Microsoft Intune and tools like that. If you find that tool interesting, if it sounds like something you might use, go look at the Microsoft MD102 course. It's a new course that was released by Microsoft. It's generally a 5-day course if you were to go and attend it at an institution, but I managed to do a full video course for you guys. It consists of 8 modules. Each is about an hour long. So it's going to take you about 8 hours to go through that course. But if you need to know about that kinds of stuff, or if you need to go and write an exam, feel free to go and check out the Microsoft MD102 course. You'll find it on my channel as well, guys. Alright, let's move on to the next topic. Azure Active Directory joined devices. So these are devices, obviously, that are joined to your Active Directory, but specifically the one in the cloud. We're not talking about a hybrid environment. We're not talking about an Active Directory environment on premises. It's not to be confused with those two. We're talking specifically about an Active Directory environment which is exclusively just in the cloud. So to be realistic with you guys, the only places I've seen in real life we would normally find these is a very small company, a very new company, or in cases where the unique circumstances allow for it. So that's generally where I have seen it up until now, but obviously things are changing very rapidly at this point in time now, so that's no longer the case. So this is now intended for cloud first or cloud only organizations. Very rare that you're going to find these. I mean, it's only starting to pick up right now. It's quite useful for organizations that own the devices. So organization owned the devices. Um, it's not limited to that though. Generally, you'll find we use this where the company owns the devices. These devices will be joined to that company's Azure domain. And if they're joined to the company's domain, you would in turn have control over these devices because they would normally then be enrolled into what we call Intune, something we spoke about just a couple of moments ago. Now, it's not that uncommon to see companies join people's personal devices to the company domain. And when you join someone's personal device to the domain, it would then automatically be enrolled into Intune. And if it's enrolled into Intune, you can then go and do things like specifying conditions. Yes, that's right, conditions. So these people will not be able to use those personal devices they own for the purposes of work to access company resources until they meet certain conditions. So normally we're not very keen on allowing people to join their personal devices or allow them to access company resource the company with their personal devices because those personal devices are seen as a massive security risk. I don't know what they're doing of those personal devices in their personal time. For all I know, we're going to those unsavory websites, wink wink, where they go and download illegal movies and illegal games and do also all kinds of not so nice stuff. Pirate movies, pirate games, and they just do all kinds of not so nice stuff. Now, when they do that, there's a very good chance they've compromised that device. It's got some sort of malware on it, it's been hacked, or something. Something bad has happened on that device. And now, in turn, they want to go and use that very same device now, what has been compromised, to access company resources. I don't want that. So, to get around that, I'm going to go and specify conditions they've got to meet first before they can access company resources. Now, normally, this is not something we can go and do. We cannot normally specify conditions for people's personal devices because these personal devices are not enrolled into Intune. So yes, you can control certain aspects of people's devices if they're not enrolled into Intune, but it's very limited as to what you can go and do. Generally, only enrolled devices can you control fully with things like conditional access. So now if someone wants to go and use their personal device, you can say, okay, you know what, bro? It's fine. You can do that. But I'm going to need you to join it to the company's Azure Active Directory. Now, at first you might say, hang on a moment, that doesn't sound like a good idea. No, trust me, it is. Because as soon as they join your Azure Active Directory, you can go and enroll them automatically into Intune. You can inform them ahead of time that this is going to happen. And if they're enrolled into Intune, you get to go and apply conditional access policies and compliance policies and all kinds of fun policies. So now you can go and enforce security. So if and when they access company resources now, you can go and sleep peaceful at night knowing that they have met your conditions. All right. So these Azure joint devices are joined only to Azure Active Directory. An organizational account is required to sign in. So yeah, normally if you want to join a device to the company's Azure Active Directory, you need to have an organizational account, which means you need to work for this company. Not just some random willy-nilly from the street is going to be able to join their device because that will be seen as a security risk. You have to work for the company. If you work for the company, you would have an organizational account. You'd be able to sign in of that and join it to the domain. If you don't work for the company, you're not going to have an account, which means you cannot join a device. So you've got that security going for you as well. They do mention in the course, this is what the course says. The course says conditional access policies can be applied to the device identity. Yes, but generally that only works for company-owned devices because only company-owned devices would normally be joined to the company's Azure Active Directory. But now more recently I've seen companies are doing it more commonly where you'll see them allowing people to join their personal device to the Azure Active Directory since so many people are working from home nowadays. And as soon as they join that personal device to the Azure Active Directory, automatically enrolled into Intune, which means you can now go and apply these conditional access policies, DLP policies, compliance policies, and. The list is as long as a Christmas list. Alright folks, let's move on to the next topic, which is hybrid Azure Active Directory joint devices. So we just spoke about Azure Active Directory joint devices. So that will be when you've got devices joined only to your cloud domain and you only have a cloud domain. Hybrid is when you still have the old school one on premises and you've got one in the cloud and you have synchronized these two most likely of one another. We're not going to talk about an Active Directory environment where the devices are only joined to the on-premises one because that's where we're coming from. This SC-300 course is talking about the new stuff, the future. It's talking about where we're going to, not where we're coming from. Everybody knows what Active Directory on-premises is. It's been around for decades, folks. So if you want to know more about that, that will be an on-premises server course, and you don't really get those anymore. So the closest thing you'll find to that will probably be Microsoft's AZ800 course. And yes, you can find that one on my channel as well. I'm not promoting it. It just happens to be on my channel. It happens to be a course I've done. So if you want to know more about on-premises Active Directory, it is covered in that course, but it's not the only thing covered in that course, unfortunately, because yeah, Microsoft is really forcing the cloud down our throats at this point in time. Whether you want it or not, whether you like it or not, everyone and everything is going to go to the cloud. That's unfortunately the future, guys. All right, so now we know hybrid Azure Active Directory is when you've got an Active Directory in the cloud and on premises, and these joined the devices, they would now be joined to both of these environments. So when, why, and where would we go and do this? So we use Azure Active Directory hybrid joined devices if you find yourself in a situation where you've got Win32 apps, that's the old Windows apps. You get so many kinds of apps, but Win32 apps, for those of you that don't know, is those normal apps you go and install the old school way on your Windows. They're actually falling away, believe it or not. So if you have Win32 apps deployed to these devices that still rely on the good old-fashioned Active Directory on premises for authentication, yes, then you might still need to go and use the on-premise Active Directory. At least for the time being until you get rid of those apps or until you can go and get something better in the cloud. You can also go and use this hybrid Active Directory if you want to continue to use group policies to manage devices. I accidentally mentioned this earlier in the video. So group policies, guys, is a Microsoft thing. It's a Windows thing. It's a benefit you only get with the on-premises Active Directory. You do not have group policies in the cloud Active Directory. Yes, Azure Active Directory or Entra ID, whatever you want to go and call it. Yes, it comes with many benefits. But one of the things it does not have is group policies. Group policies is exclusive to Windows and it only works for on-premises for the most part. So if you need to go and use group policies, yeah, unfortunately you're going to still be stuck with the on-premise Active Directory. You can also use a hybrid Active Directory if you want to continue to use existing imaging solutions to deploy and configure devices. So these existing imaging solutions they're referring to is imaging solutions you would normally have on premises. Old school way of doing things. This could potentially be something like Configuration Manager. It could potentially be to go and deploy something via group policy. Anything old school really that you would normally go and use on premises to go and deploy an image. That's the existing ones they're talking about. So if you're going to go and look at, which course is it? I think it's also the MD102 course. If you look at the MD102 course, guys, you don't have to go look at the whole course. Specifically the last two modules in that course. The last two modules in that course, it only has 8 modules. I think the second last module in that course is about deploying to devices using on-premises tools. And the last module, being module 8, is deploying to devices using cloud-based tools. So if you're not sure what these old existing imaging solutions would be, I would suggest you go and check out specifically module 7 in the MD102 course on my channel. If you want to know more about cloud deployment tools to deploy things like images to your people's devices, that would be specifically module 8 in that course. So module 7 is on-premises based tools. Module 8 is cloud-based tools. That's only for the guys that want to go and check that out. If you're not interested, please ignore what I just said. All right. So you can also use Azure Active Directory Hybrid Join if you must support down level to Windows 7, 8.1 devices in addition to Windows 10. So if there's anything that you still need to support older than Windows 10, which I find very unlikely, I mean, why would you still be running Windows 7 or 8.1? But should you find yourself in that unfortunate position for whatever reason, and you do need to support Windows 7 or 8.1 or anything older like that, yes, then you might still need to go and use a hybrid Active Directory environment, so you still have the on-premises Active Directory. All right, folks, that brings us to an end of another main section in this module. The next one is configure delegation by using administrative units. All right, folks, like usual, the first topic in this section should come as no surprise. I mean, it was kind of in the title, wasn't it? And that is about administrative units. Now, if you don't know what an administrative unit is, guys, because this might be a very new term for a lot of you guys if you haven't played on Azure, it is very much like organizational units, which we call OUs on premises. So for those of you that's been working on servers on premises, specifically Active Directory, and for those of you that know what an organizational unit is in Active Directory, why we make them, how we make them, and for what we use them and how we use them, administrative units is very, very flippin' the same. Very. Now, I suppose it's almost identical, but Microsoft can't go and call it the exact same name because now it's in a cloud, and if it's going to be the same name, since it does not do exactly the same, just nearly the same, we can't call it exactly the same because that would cause confusion. But for those of you that know Active Directory on premises, just keep thinking of Active Directory on premises. Think of organizational units on premises, the old OUs. And when I explain this, it's going to make a lot more sense to you. So administrative units, guys, are Azure Active Directory resources that can be containers for other Azure Active Directory resources. And if you know what an organizational unit is, you should already start seeing some similarities here. So normally what we use an organizational unit for, or in this case an administrative unit for, is to basically organize resources. If I've got a whole bunch of user accounts and I need to go and apply a setting or something to these user accounts, I most certainly don't want to go to each and every one of these accounts and go and configure the setting or whatever it might be. It's going to take too long. So why work harder when we can work smarter? Instead, I'm going to throw all these users into one folder. So on premise, this will be an organizational unit. And you would go and apply something like a group policy to that folder on premises. In the cloud, same story. So if I've got a whole bunch of people in the sales department, I would throw all these people in the sales department, their user accounts that is, into an administrative unit or an organizational unit, potato, potato. I would throw them into that container, looks like a folder, and once I've thrown all their user accounts into that container, I can go and control it by applying policies and permissions and stuff. The same can happen with groups. So just like on premises, we can go and throw groups into these organizational units. Administrative units are the same, guys. You can throw user accounts into these units. You can throw groups in there. You can throw a group in a group and then throw that in there. So yes, an administrative unit can contain only users and groups. Administrative units restrict permissions in a role to any portion of your organization that you define. It's very, very much the same as organizational units. So like I said earlier, if you've got a whole department like the sales department and you need to go and control those users, just throw them into an administrative unit and go and apply the settings to that specific unit. Now, yes, someone can be in more than one administrative unit. So if you've got a whole bunch of salespeople in the sales department, but one of these individuals happens to be the manager of the sales department, that person might need to be in another administrative unit as well, which is called managers perhaps. So he or she is in the sales administrative unit because any settings or policies that apply to salespeople would apply to that individual. But at the same time, they might find themselves in the manager administrative unit. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. I'm just giving it proper names here because it makes more sense to call it managers. So if you have an administrative unit called managers, you might throw this person in there as well because, well, they're a manager. Just makes sense, doesn't it? Now let me give you guys a deployment scenario. So we've got a large university composed of autonomous schools. This could be School of Business, School of Engineering, and so on. Each school has a team of IT admins who control access, manage users, and set policy for the school. So this is a very typical scenario you would find in most companies, except this happens to be a school. So some of the administrative tasks could include things like creating a role with administrative permissions over only Azure Active Directory users in the business school administrative unit. It could include creating an administrative unit for the School of Business. It could include populating the administrative unit with only the business school students and staff. And it can include adding the business school IT team to the role along with its scope. So there you guys have a bit of a deployment scenario as to where and when one might want to go and use this. All right, folks, let's move on to the next topic, delegating administration. Now, for those of you that's not familiar with the term delegating, that is generally in IT when you go and, well, pass on some of your responsibilities to some of your juniors. I used to do this all the time, although not in the cloud. This used to be more on premises. So on premises, once again, in the on-premises Active Directory environment, you can also go and do something called delegating or delegation. So if you are in charge of a whole company or multiple branch offices, it is impossible for you to do everything alone yourself. It is simply too much work. I wouldn't say it's difficult, it's just too much work. So you're going to need some help. And generally in these situations, we would go and hire additional IT staff. But in those scenarios, you ideally do not want to give these new guys too much privilege. So what we do in those scenarios is we delegate certain tasks to them. So if I'm in charge of multiple branch offices, I might go and delegate full privilege to one individual for one whole branch. Not for the whole company, just for one whole branch. Now, if this is just for one branch or one company, let's imagine there's not multiple branch offices, then maybe I can go and delegate one department to a certain individual. So this is also done via organizational units on premises. So you go right click on that organizational unit, basically just a fancy name for a fancy folder if you ask me. You right click on that folder, you go and say delegate, And there you can go and allocate a group of individuals, one individual, or just random multiple individuals. You can go and delegate administration to these individuals. So you can go and add one guy there that you trust, that's been working for your company for quite some time, and he or she can be in charge of a whole flipping department, the whole sales department, the whole HR department, and so on and so forth. Now, the same concept applies in the cloud, guys. Just because it's in the cloud doesn't mean these concepts are going to fall completely away. They're still going to stay. It's just, well, we're moving things into the cloud. So here's a couple of delegation scenarios as to where one might want to go and do this in the cloud. This could be to go and restrict and manage application creation. So there we go again. It's a kind of restriction. So you're giving them permission, but you also in the same breath you're kind of restricting these individuals. This could be to assign owners to an application, not all, just certain applications. This could be maybe to go and assign a built-in administrative role that grants access to manage configuration in Azure Active Directory for applications. Just keep in mind, Azure Active Directory is Entra ID. Alternatively, this could maybe even be creating a custom role defining very specific permissions and assigning it to someone. So, and I can probably carry on and give you guys lots of scenarios, but at the end of the day, I don't want to make this video too long. As we have, this is already going to be 11 sections, and it's going to probably be a 2-hour video, if not longer. So, yeah, I think let's move on. Let's move on to the next main section, which is the 5th one, by the way. Configure tenant-wide settings. Now, tenant-wide settings, you can probably guess the first topic, and this is actually going to be the only topic in this section, is going to be, well, tenant-wide settings. The name tells you what you need to know. It is settings that's going to affect your whole entire tenant in the cloud. So in this case, we're for the most part talking about your Azure tenant. So if I were to go and change some sort of setting, some sort of configuration that affects the whole tenant, it will affect everyone. So if it's a security setting that said, hey, everybody needs to go and use multi-factor authentication from now on, it will affect everybody. It's not a matter of, hey, let me go and choose this group of people. It's not going to work like that. This will affect everyone in your environment. So we can safely say tenant-wide settings apply to the entire tenant when set. Just keep that in mind. These global values set some default behaviors to be applied to all users and properties until you specify otherwise later down the line. So you can go and manage members and guest users to go and do things like register applications, restrict access to Azure Active Directory administrative portal. So if you don't want the average Joe to be able to access the administrative portal or certain people, then, well, maybe make it a global wide setting. You never know. You can go and configure tenant-wide settings regarding, for example, signing in with LinkedIn. I've seen nowadays people even go and sign in using Facebook and all that. I myself, guys, I'll be honest, I'm not too keen on it. I still feel it's a little unsecure. At least at this time, it still feels a little bit unsecure. They're getting there, but I don't know. Maybe it's just my paranoia acting up. And then you can also go and configure tenant-wide settings regarding managing your security defaults. I kind of gave that one away in the beginning of this topic when I said you can go and configure things like MFA. Maybe you can go and force these people to have at least a certain security requirement with regards to their password, that kind of stuff. All right, so that was a short section. I know it is. Some of them are long, some of them are short. Let's move into the 6th section, which is create, configure, and manage groups. So you can probably guess at some point in time regarding this, we're going to go to the Azure portal, and you'll be right. Now, before we go ahead and jump on over to the Azure portal, just a couple of quick things I want to mention. This is also a very short section. First thing I want to mention is you get something called security groups. I'm going to mention 2 kinds of groups we get on the Azure portal, security groups being one of them. Now, before someone goes ahead and mentions in the comment section, hey, you get multiple kinds of groups other than the 2 you mentioned, I'm well aware. I mean, for instance, you get security groups, you get mail groups, you get mail-enabled security groups, you get 365 groups, you get dynamic groups, and. But we're only mentioning 2 because that's the only 2 that's mentioned in this course at this point in time. The security groups is one of my personal favorite kinds of groups you get in 365 and the Azure side of things. These allow you to control the actions of your users, at least to a certain degree. To a certain sense, they're kind of sort of similar to group policies on premises. Not exactly, but there are some similarities in my own opinion here. So if you want to go and block the actions of your people, let's say I don't want these folks to be able to create a team in Microsoft Teams, or I don't want them to be able to do this or that. I'm going to go and chuck all these people into a group, specifically a security group. What you call this group does not matter. That's up to you guys. You can call this Banana Town if you want to, for all I care, as long as it's a security group. Once you've chucked all these people into that group, whatever it's called, you can then proceed to assign the relevant permissions to it, which says these people cannot do the following or they can do the following. So what you might not know regarding security groups, these are the most common kind of group you might encounter. And also, you manage access to shared resources for a group using these. As for the other kind of group that I want to mention to you guys, that is Microsoft 365 groups. I think I did accidentally mention that just a couple of moments ago. So you'll find that you can either go and create these manually yourself directly, or you can go and create these indirectly a couple of ways. Also very, very common. I mean, I actually in the beginning thought these were the most common, but it turns out they're not. So if you want to go and create them directly, you can do this via PowerShell. I mean, you can do anything via PowerShell these days. You can do it via the 365's main admin center, or you can go and do it via the Azure portal in Azure Active Directory, which they call Entra ID now. So I'll probably show you guys that method, since this course is more about Azure than anything else. And if you want to go and create them indirectly, just to give you guys a couple of ideas as to how one might do that, you can do it via Microsoft Teams. So if you make a team in Microsoft Teams, it will indirectly automatically create a whole bunch of stuff in the background, one of which is a 365 group with the exact same name. You can alternatively do this via Jammer or Jammer, however you want to pronounce that. You can do this via Outlook and much, much more. So these 365 groups can access shared mailboxes, calendar, SharePoint, and much more. I mean, the list goes on. And you can use them to give access to external people if need be. So before we jump on over to the next main section, let me just very quickly switch over to the Azure portal and show you where one might find these mythical groups. So let's just quickly switch over. Right, folks, like usual, you should know this. This is the Azure portal. I'm going to go straight to Entra ID. And instead of clicking on users like we did earlier for whatever, I can't even remember why we went there. I'm going to go straight to groups. And I think without me even explaining further, you can probably guess where you might need to go to be able to create one of these groups. Yep, it's the button that says new groups. If you can read, you can probably figure it out. So there you go, new group. Go click there. And there you can see you can choose between security and 365 group, which is one of the reasons why that's the only two they mentioned in this course at this point in time, because that's the only two you will find in this list. It's, however, not the only two kinds of groups you get in the 365 environment, though. So we're coming at this more from an Azure perspective. But if you look at this from a 365 perspective, you get many other kinds of groups. So feel free to go look into those if you find that interesting. But yeah, that's where you can go and choose what kind of group you're dealing with. Choose a name, choose a description, add owners if need be, add members if need be. You can obviously go and add owners and members later on. You can always go and remove them later on. You click on create at the bottom left, and it takes about 1 to 2 seconds, and then voila, presto, you are done. Right, let's go look at the next main section, which is manage licenses. So like anything else, I mean, this is Microsoft after all, there's going to be licenses involved. You're gonna have a very hard time, honestly, to be able to find a product from Microsoft that does not require some sort of license somewhere along the line. So you can see I'm clearly not promoting Microsoft. I'm just stating a fact. Microsoft likes charging you a license for this, a license for that, and a license within a license within a license. Sometimes I honestly felt like a fly-by-night when I had to tell my customers or my users that, hey, sir, you need a license for this. And then eventually when I can get this customer to buy this license, now I have to tell the customer, oh, sorry, nah, you need a license for this and this too. And then they start thinking I'm cheating them. Meanwhile, I'm telling the God honest truth here that they really do need a license. And I tell them, sir, by all means, you don't have to buy the license now. Go do some research. Go and inquire about these licenses I've told you about from a third party of your choice. And if they tell you the same story as I tell you, then you know I'm telling the truth. And normally they would go and do that, and then they would see, okay, I'm not lying to them. It really is the truth. Anyway, so what we're going to talk about regarding managing licenses would be about licenses. Microsoft paid cloud services require licenses. That should not come as a surprise to you. Nothing in life is for free. And like most things in life, the more you pay, the more you get, or the better you get. So there's going to be different types of licenses too. And depending on how much money you're willing to throw at this, or your company or your client, that will dictate what license you get, which will dictate what benefits you get. So licenses are assigned to each user who needs access to the services. Unfortunately, yes, it is. Each user requires a separate paid license. Otherwise, how do you think Microsoft's going to make money out of this? So, yes, Microsoft is unfortunately going to require from you to get a license, a separate license for every user. Administrators use the management portals and, of course, PowerShell commandlets to manage these licenses. Now, something I want to bring to your attention in case you guys don't know, it depends on your experience. Yes, PowerShell can do anything, at least that's the perception, but it might not be able to do that by default. So depending on what you want to do via PowerShell, you may or may not might need to go and install what we call a module for PowerShell. You can think of these modules as an expansion pack for your PowerShell. So if I would like to manage something on Azure, I might need to install the module for Azure on PowerShell, which basically teaches your PowerShell new tricks so that it will understand the PowerShell commands for Azure. If you just go to PowerShell by default, the default PowerShell, and you just start typing in commands, it's for the most part only going to recognize your normal everyday, day-to-day commands. But as soon as you try and manage or control anything out of the ordinary, something in the cloud, for instance, like Azure, it will not understand the command you're typing in. The whole screen is going to flash bright red. It's basically going to come down to unrecognized commands until you install the relevant module. You should also keep in mind that you need to restart this machine, the virtual machine or the physical machine, once you've installed the module. You'll need to do it once, and that's it. Then from that point forward, it will understand the commands you type in. Now, something I would also like to mention regarding managing licenses is group-based licensing. So you can, for those of you who didn't know, you can assign one or more product licenses to a group. So yes, generally every weasel and his uncle is going to need an individual license, but it is in fact possible to also assign one or more licenses to a group, in case you didn't know that. Azure Active Directory or Entra ID ensures that the licenses are assigned to all members of the group. So why work harder when you can work smarter, folks? New group members will then automatically be assigned the appropriate licenses. How about them apples? So licenses are removed from users when they leave the group. So assuming there's enough licenses available, of course, if you add people to that group, ta-da, they will automatically get the licenses. Should you remove someone from this group for whatever reason, they will automatically lose those licenses. So this is a great way of making your work lighter. Licenses can also be assigned to any security group, just FYI, in case you guys didn't know. And that brings us to the end of this main section, which is about licenses. And we can now move on to the main section, which is managing external collaboration. All right, now the first and quite frankly the only topic we're going to be talking about in this section, folks, is collaborating with external users. So these are going to be individuals that don't necessarily work for you or your company, at least not directly. These could be contractors, they could be consultants. I think you guys get the idea. So with regards to this topic, you can go and invite external users into your tenant as guests. You can do this either via the 365 admin center, which is not the topic in this course, or you can do it via Azure portal, via the Azure Active Directory, which they call Entra ID. That is what they've got in mind for this course. And we're going to show you guys how to do that in the next section, because the next section is about inviting external people. So if you'd like to see how to do that, stay tuned for the next section or skip ahead to the next section using the timestamps. Now, also regarding this topic, external users use their existing credentials for authorization. We're not going to go ahead and create a brand spanking new account for these external people because that's just not safe. We don't feel very comfortable regarding that. So instead, what we will use is their live ID. And to be honest, 9 out of 10 times is going to end up being their company email address because 90% of people these days use 365 as their email provider. Office 365, in other words. So you might not know that because maybe their email address is at donkeytown.com, burningicetech.com. You don't know because you only see the alias. You only see what they want you to see. But in reality, in the background, it is in fact 9 out of 10 times going to be a 365 email address. So you can invite people using the 365 email addresses because it's a Microsoft address and they are in fact seen as live IDs. In the unfortunate event, which is going to be quite rare, quite frankly, that these individuals do not have 365 as an email provider, you can invite them using their good old-fashioned Windows Live IDs. These live IDs are also known as online accounts. They're also known as Microsoft accounts. So they're known as live accounts, online accounts, Microsoft accounts, potato, potato. Microsoft can't make up their minds, is what I'm saying here. But you can invite them using those. Should they not have one, which is really, really, really rare, they can literally just go to www.live.com, make a new one. Hell, they can even use a fake username and name if they want to. I wouldn't suggest that. Once they've got that, you can invite them using that on the Azure portal, of course. They will then also be assigned permissions for authorization. Now, by default, external users, which we call guest users, or at least they used to be called guest users, by default, they have 0 permissions. That's a security precaution for Microsoft because what if one day I accidentally, or someone in my company accidentally invites someone from outside or gives them access to something? That's a bit of a concern. So you'll find generally by default, external people, I just call them guests, will have 0 permissions. Whether you're giving them access to SharePoint, whether you're giving them access to OneDrive, or whatever, they have 0 permissions until you or a fellow administrator assigns them some level of privilege. Now on the Azure portal, you're just going to go to that role-based access control, which I showed you guys earlier in this video. Just go there after you've invited this individual, and you can go and assign them a role or multiple roles exactly the same way you would normally go and do it for a normal user. Something you'll see in the next section. You can also go and restrict what external users can see and do, which is, well, once again referring to the RBAC for the most part. Now, speaking of the next main section, as I've said, it is invite external users. So I think you guys could have guessed that because of what I've been saying. And this can be either individually or in bulk. Most of the time, I just invite people individually. But yes, it can be done in bulk. A lot of things can be done in bulk, quite frankly, on Azure and 365. And you'll find in most of these cases it's going to involve using some sort of CSV file from what I've seen. Microsoft's got a real fetish, if you want to call it, for CSV files from what it seems. Anyway, so yeah, first topic in this section, guys, that is of course inviting users. So inviting users, well, let's start off individually. Any user, even as a guest, can invite guest users by default. Now that is a scary thought. Let me read that again. Any user, even a guest, remember that's someone outside your company, an external person, so even someone outside your company can invite someone else outside your company. This is the default. That is really, really, really unsecure, guys. You need to make sure you remember that. Not for the exam. That's not a question in the exam, at least not the last time I checked. Well, you never know, Microsoft, they might add it. But I want you guys to remember that for going into the field. So if you don't know this already and you plan on going back to the company and enforcing some of what you've learned in this course, please remember this. You need to go and turn this off. We don't want to allow people to by default be able to do this. This is a very big concern in any company environment. Also, Inviter sends the guest a direct link to the app being shared. So they're going to get a direct link. And then also, if you didn't know, application owners can manage their own guest users. So I might not necessarily be a full-fledged admin of any kind, but if I have been made an application owner, I will be able to manage the guests of that application since, well, I've been made the owner. So they've kind of given me the responsibility to oversee this application or look after this application. I suppose you could say they trust me with this application. And as such, I will be able to control who the guests are and all that kinds of jazz. Now, so that's a little bit about the individual users themselves. Now, what about inviting users in bulk? So that would mean I'm going to invite a whole bunch of people in one go. You can prepare a .csv file with user information invitation preferences. Yep, no surprise there. I told you guys it's going to be a CSV file. And then lastly, upload the CSV file to the Azure Active Directory. All right, so let's just quickly go back to the Azure portal and show you guys where we actually do this stuff. All right, folks, like usual, here we are on the Azure portal. You're probably tired of me saying that by now. I'm going to go straight here to Microsoft's Entra ID. And we're talking about inviting users and bulk users. We're going to go here to users. No surprise there. And you can see that would be to create a user. So I'm going to invite an individual user or create an individual user. That would be to invite an external user, but it's going to be an individual external user. Now, what if I would like to invite a whole bunch of external users? That will be under bulk operations. You're going to go here to bulk operations, bulk invite or bulk create. So bulk create would be the same as just creating a user, same as that one there. And bulk invite is people outside the company. That would require you to go and use a CSV file, and you're probably going to have to go be very careful regarding, permissions. So let's just click on that for just a second. You can see there, I'm going to have to go and download the CSV file, the .csv file. You're going to have to go and populate it with the user's information, edit it as needed, and then lastly, you're going to come back here once again, and you're going to go and upload that, submit it, and ta-da! As for creating or inviting one individual user at a time, which is outside the company, like I said earlier in this video, it used to be called invite a guest user. Now they called it external user. You click on that. You type in the person's email address, which 9 out of 10 times will be a 365 email address if they work for a company. If they don't have a 365 email address, you can just use their normal personal live ID. Type in the display name. Type a nice little invite message there. Hey, looking forward to working with you. Welcome to BurningIceTech or whatever your company's name is. You can go and specify a whole boatload of things here, as you can see. Keep in mind, this is for an external person, not for an internal person. So how interesting is that? And then the main kicker here, you can go and add the person to a group if need be. You can go and give them a role if need be. So this is the RBAC. And you can go and give this person a role or multiple roles if need be. Now, if you are concerned about giving someone a role or privilege, and you're concerned that this person should not have that role or privilege longer than a certain period of time, yes, you can remove it afterwards. And yes, you can have this happen automatically. It is not something that's really discussed in this course, but I would like to point it out to you guys. So it's obviously not going to be in the exam, but you can go and use various things. I mean, you can go and use just in time. You can go and use PIM. Privileged Identity Management is what it stands for. So Privileged Identity Management allows you to go and, well, basically make privileges expire. So if I go and assign privilege to a certain individual user, I can make it expire after a certain period of time. So if this person, if I know for a fact they're not going to work for me more than 7 days, or they're not going to work with me for more than 7 days, I can have the privilege expire after 7 days. Now, should they still be working at that point in time and the privilege is now accidentally expired, you can just go and, well, reset the clock and just go and re-specify a period, of course. So it can be done, guys. All right, let's go back to the presentation. The next main section, folks, is manage external user accounts in Azure Active Directory. Alright guys, so the first thing I'm going to talk about with you in this section is the default role. Now what I'm about to tell you guys, don't worry about it too much because a lot of the stuff has in fact changed. I'm delivering the course as Microsoft intends for it to be delivered, but I will point out if I happen to know that something is no longer relevant, if it's not in the exam, or if it's been renamed. And for example, you've been hearing me a lot mention that Azure Active Directory is now called Entra ID. So in the course, it's still called Azure Active Directory. So eventually they'll probably go and update the course. But for now, it's still called Azure Active Directory, even though we know in real life it's no longer called that. It's called something else. And I can bet you a lot of money that in the exam they're going to ask you about the latest, which is Entra ID. Now, as for the default role they're talking about, here's a picture as to what they meant by that. Now, that picture, guys, that does not really exist anymore. That's what I've been mentioning in the beginning. So by default, someone would be a user. And if you look at that picture and you stare at it for a moment, you would realize this is exactly what I explained earlier. I told you guys there used to be 3 radio buttons. My keyword here is used to be. In other words, it doesn't look like that anymore. I showed you guys firsthand earlier what it looks like right now. So if you go to the portal, like I showed you earlier, and you go to users and you go look at the roles, those RBAC, it's just a long list of checkboxes of roles to go and choose from. One of which is the global admin, of course, and the majority of the other ones is just the limited roles. It's no longer 3 radio buttons like we see in that screenshot. The last time I saw that was in 2018. So even though this is a relatively new course, Microsoft loves reusing old screenshots and old topics and stuff. So I don't know what the deal with that is, but I'm including it just in case. I don't like you guys being caught off guard. So that's what they mean by default role. Default role is the user, which means the person has diddly squat permissions. Nada. Nothing. You can alternatively go and, of course, choose global, which is, well, full privilege. And if that feels like too much privilege, which normally is, you can go and choose the 3rd radio button there, or at least you could in the past, which would give you a long list. Well, at least back then they considered it long. It was only like 5 or 6 roles to choose from, which was limited admin accounts. Alright, folks, so that was the 10th section. Now we're moving on to the 11th, the last section in this module. Can you believe it? Wow, this video was a little bit longer than what I expected it to be. Although, on the one hand, I did expect it to go up to 2 hours. On the other hand, I expected it to be 1 hour. And I think we're probably around 1 hour and 50 minutes, if I have to guess. I can't see the clock, so I'm just shooting out of the hip here, guys. So the topic is Azure Active Directory, but please note that it's no longer called that, guys. That's what the course calls it. I'm telling you now, that's not what it's called anymore. You can go check me on this. If you go to the Azure portal, you'll see it's now called, I think, Microsoft Entra Connect. You would have seen me show you guys that way in the beginning of this video. It was called Microsoft Entra Connect. Maybe by the time you watch this video, if you're watching this video only like 6 months or 12 months after I made it, maybe by then they would have changed the name again. At the end of the day, the concept will stay the same, even though the name changes. 1 plus 1 will always be 2. Alright, so it's called Azure AD Connect in this course, or Microsoft Entra Connect. What is this tool, though? So the Azure AD Connect or Entra AD Connect is a solution that bridges an organization's on-premises Active Directory with the cloud-based Active Directory. I mentioned this to you guys earlier. So if you're lucky enough to have an on-premises Active Directory and at the same time have an Active Directory in the cloud, that is called a hybrid Active Directory. And in most of these situations, you're going to find that we're going to synchronize these 2 Active Directories with one another. So all the objects, which is things like user accounts, groups, that kinds of stuff, all of it would be synchronized. So if I go on premises the old school way and create a user account the old school way in the Active Directory, after a certain amount of time, it's going to synchronize that change into the cloud, and you'll see that same user account on that Active Directory. You can alternatively do this vice versa. We create it in the cloud, on the Azure portal. After a certain amount of time, it will synchronize it back down onto that Active Directory. This all depends on what synchronization you've chosen, though, because you do get a synchronization which allows it to synchronize both ways, which is what most companies do. And then you get one which allows you to synchronize from on-prem into the cloud, but not back down again. The last time I checked, there was no third option which says synchronize from the cloud only to on-premises. There was no such option last time I checked, but you never know. Microsoft's continuously changing this stuff, so maybe they went and added this after I made this course for you guys. You never know. But there's only 2. One syncs both ways, which is what most companies use. The other one only syncs from on-prem into the cloud. That's it. Now, Azure Active Directory Connect provides a couple of benefits to you guys. I mean, obviously, it provides things like synchronization. It also provides things like password hash synchronization. It provides pass-through authentication. It provides federation integration. So if you still are stuck with some sort of ADFS on premises or something in that regard, yes, it does have integration for that, although most companies are moving away from that nowadays. And then, of course, you've got health monitoring. You need to be able to keep an eye on this because normally it's going to involve you having to install an agent on all the servers where you've installed this AD Connect tool, and you never know, maybe something will happen to that server. Maybe the server has crashed, maybe the agent has stopped working, or the Connect tool has stopped working. A lot of things can happen. You guys, you all work in IT, so you've probably seen anything can happen. Any time is tea time. So if and when something happens on one of your servers where you're synchronizing from, you would of course like to know about that, so you can go and do something about that. On that note, if at all possible, guys, I would suggest you do this on more than one server because of load balance, because of redundancy. If at all possible, never try and put in all your eggs in one basket. That's always a bad idea. So Microsoft suggests you go and drop and install this AD Connect tool on your on-premises server, more specifically your Active Directory server. You'll see that if you go and download this tool and try and install it on a client operating system, something like Windows 10 or Windows 11, it will not work. It's going to give you an error. It's going to tell you it can only be installed on a server. So on that note, guys, it can only be installed on a server operating system. You'll find it's not an exe file. It's a .msi file. Where do you download this? How you download this is up to you guys. You can go and download it via the Azure portal. So if you go to the Azure portal into your Azure Active Directory, you'll find there's a tab there. It says Entra Connect, Microsoft Entra Connect now. You go click on that. It's going to allow you to go and download this tool. So I'll show you guys that in just a second. But before we do that, let's move on to the next topic, which is authentication methods. So the first one we get is cloud authentication, which is probably going to be the most popular here. So with regards to cloud authentication, you get Azure Active Directory password hash synchronization, which is just called PHS for short. Users can then use the same username and password that they use on premises. Very, very popular amongst most companies. Then you also get Azure Active Directory pass-through authentication, which is known as PTA for short. So the simple password validation for Azure Active Directory authenticates services using software agent that runs on one or more on-premises servers. It kind of reminds me of my wife whenever I go into a store and I want to buy something. It's my money, but I kind of find myself still phoning the wife to ask her permission. So it kind of reminds me of that. And and a federation services is even more so, where I basically ask for like a second opinion, asking for permission. Now, speaking of federation, you also get federated authentication. So hand-off trusted authentication system is what it means. So Azure Active Directory hands-off authentication process to a separate trusted authentication system to validate the user's passwords. So that'll be your good old-fashioned ADFS, which is most likely going to be on premises. It's a federation authority, and you'll find that most companies are actually, in fact, moving away from that now. So way in the beginning, maybe around 2015, 2016, when a lot of companies were still moving to the cloud, they were kind of unsure and uncertain about the security of the cloud. They didn't exactly trust it. But yet at the same time, they wanted to move to the cloud. So you'd find a lot of companies still had ADFS on premises as an extra layer of precaution or security. But in turn, it was a single point of failure. So God forbid, if something happened to that ADFS on premises, everything would be offline. Now, with most companies moving away from that and almost everything being in the cloud, you've got high availability. Microsoft gives you a 99.9% uptime guarantee on absolutely bloody everything in the cloud these days. And depending on what high availability options you get, you can actually increase this to 99.95% or even higher in most cases. Right, and then the last topic I want to mention to you guys before we switch over to the Azure portal for the last time is what exactly is the Azure Active Directory Connect Health? So if and when you go and install this Azure AD Connect tool on your servers on premises, whether it be one or more, I suggest you do it in more than one, you're going to need to keep an eye on these servers. Like I said earlier, you never know. One of these servers could crash, they could get infected, something got corrupt, maybe you or someone else turned them down for maintenance and you were not informed of this. Either way, you need to know what's going on in your environment. And since so many things are running remote these days, you might not be at the office. You might not physically see that something's happening on a server that it's offline. So what if you're working from home? These health agents that you're going to install on a servers will allow you to keep an eye on your servers remotely. All you need to do is you just log on to some place like the Azure portal. That's one way to do it. That's my personal favorite. You log on to the Azure portal. You go to the Microsoft Entra, what is it called? Microsoft Entra Connect tab. You go there. You go to the health section, and you will be able to see the health of all your servers from the comfort of your couch on your home. How cool is that? And if something is wrong, you can go and investigate it further, or you can go and do what I like to do, which is delegate to the juniors. Anyway, so Microsoft says this is your Active Directory Connect helping. It provides robust monitoring of your on-premises identity infrastructure. Kind of what I said all along, isn't it? It enables you to maintain a reliable connection to Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Online Services. It provides monitoring capabilities for your key identity components. And lastly, guys, it makes the key data points about these components easily accessible. All right, so technically we are done, but we're also not done yet, guys. So before you go and disappear on me, let me go back to the Azure portal for one last time and show you some of these things. So switching over for the last time. Right, folks, straight on to Entra ID. There we go. If you scroll down far enough in this blade, guys, you'll see there it says Microsoft Entra Connect. You go click on that. Now, over the years, I've seen them change this. It used to actually just be one tab here on the left. And that used to be, I think, this tab here. I'm not sure if it was called that. I can't really remember. But if you go click on that, that's the only stuff you used to actually see was this stuff here. So if you go here, there's a button here. It says download the Microsoft Entra Connect tool. If you go and click on that, it's actually going to open an extra tab here. I can actually do that now, which is the Microsoft.com website. At the moment, if you check the URL, you'll see we're on portal.azure.com. We are, in fact, on the Azure portal. But should you click on that, let me do that, you'll see now it takes me to the Microsoft.com website. And if I go here, you can actually go and download this tool. At the moment, it's about 147 megabits. They keep changing it. Sometimes it's smaller, sometimes it's bigger. You download that tool, you drop it in the server in question, or servers if it's more than one, and you go run the wizard. You'll find it's really, really user-friendly, this wizard. It was not always the case. So up until about 2018, you needed like a rocket science degree to be able to run that wizard because it was flippin' complicated. Now, a 7-year-old can do it. My 7-year-old actually has done that. I have a 7-year-old, and he has done that because daddy explained to him what he needed to go and do, and he could actually follow along. So if a 7-year-old can do it, then my God, an adult can definitely go and do it, guys. So the tool will basically ask you for a global admin account. I'm not supposed to show you that now because it's not really part of the course. Maybe in the next module. It's going to ask you for a global administrator account in the cloud domain to make sure you're a member, an employee of that company. And, of course, to make sure you're authorized to synchronize that Active Directory. After you provide a global admin account, it's again going to ask you for an admin account, but this time around for the on-premises Active Directory, and it's, of course, for the same reasons. After that, you just keep clicking next, next, next. Please go over all the default settings in the beginning. Do not be tempted to go and fiddle with all the settings, or any of the settings for that matter. You'll see at some point in time, it's going to ask you, do you want to go and do advanced or custom installation, or do you want to do an express installation? I know most of you guys normally click on advanced or custom because if you don't, you're probably going to end up changing your home page to something you don't want. You might end up with some stupid toolbar or some antivirus you don't want because that's normally what happens when you don't click on advanced. But in this case, guys, you can rest your mind at ease. That's not going to happen. Click on express, go over all the default settings. Advanced, guys, or custom as they call it sometimes, that is if you have more than one forest, which most companies don't. Or if you still have an ADFS on premises, which also most companies don't. Microsoft will also tell you that you always need to go and download and run the latest version of this AD Connect tool. Yes and no, guys. You'll find that you don't need to go and download the latest version. If you have an old setup file lying around in your PC somewhere, which you downloaded like a couple of years ago, if you double click that setup file and you run it, it will in fact automatically run the latest version from what I've seen. I did this by accident once and I noticed that it does that. It just takes 1 or 2 seconds longer to launch the setup file because it's going to go and check and see, oh, hang on a moment, gosh, I am not the latest version. And it will then in turn automatically go and get the latest version for you and run the latest version for you. So that's quite nice to know. So yeah, guys, that is how you download it. And if I go back into the Azure portal, that link is actually just there if you go download it the first time until you run it at least once. Once you've run this tool at least once, it's going to tell you here when you last ran that tool. It's going to give you all kinds of useful information here. And this link actually, in fact, disappears. So the second time, if you want to go and download the setup file, if you happen to have lost it somewhere along the line, you will have to go to a search engine of your choice, like Bing or Google maybe. And then in there, go and type an Entra Connect tool. And it's going to take you back to the exact same website, which is that same Microsoft website I showed you guys. Now, as for the health, if you have installed the health agents, which I would not say it's compulsory, but I highly, highly recommend you do that to keep an eye on the servers. If you would like to monitor the health of these servers, you're going to have to scroll down here. You'll see here's one section that actually says Health and Analytics. You can go click on that there. And here you can go and view all kinds of useful information, like, for example, synchronization errors and so on. Alright guys, so that is the last bit of information from the last section in this module. Before you guys disappear on me, it's been a pleasure having you on this course. Please stay tuned for module 2, which will probably come out very shortly after module 1. If you have not done it already yet, please give the video a like. You really are helping me in the video when you do that. You're helping other people by doing that. If you would like to know when module 2 for this course comes out, subscribe if you haven't done that already. Then the system will inform you when module 2 comes out. If you would like to support this channel so I can make more content like this, you can find all that information in the video description down below. And speaking of supporting the channel, for all of you that have been supporting the channel, the Patreon guys, the PayPal guys, those of you clicking on the thanks button below the video, if it's still there, I see sometimes YouTube removes it, sometimes they add it. Those of you that's been buying me a coffee or a milkshake, all of the support you've shown me, thank you very, very much, guys. There's a list of the Patreon sponsors the last time I checked. There's a list of some of the guys that's sponsoring me via PayPal the last time I checked. Thank you very much, guys. It's much appreciated. And then one last time, in case you guys didn't hear me say the first time, there is in fact a Discord server. So if you have Discord, if you know what Discord server is, and if you'd like to join my Discord server, the name is Free IT Training. The link is in the video description down below. Feel free to go check it out. It's a community where I am in. There's other trainers in that server. And you'll find there's lots of like-minded people in there. People that studying IT courses, this course, along with many other courses. And if you want to ask questions, they might be able to help you. If you know the answer to someone else's question, feel free to go and help these people. Either way, it's got lots of useful information that you might be able to go and use. And it's all free, of course. Alright guys, thank you, and I will see you in Module 2 of the SC-300 course.